The Edarans' ultimatum looms, and as Meridia prepares for what Jossun has declared will be the greatest Edaran victory since the war, Val is notably absent. Are you ready for 2 seasons and many centuries worth of tensions to come ahead? Well, it's coming. Let's break down the episode after a message to our heroes of Edaran. Hey there, this is Colin, creator of the 7th Valkyrie. If you're hearing this, it means you're listening to the public version of TABTA. And I really appreciate that. It keeps the algorithm happy. It keeps us growing. But if you want to get a little fun personal message every week with behind-the-scenes stories, funny little bits, other insight into the creative process, you can hop over to our Patreon and become a hero of Edaran. You'll support the series, you can shape the future of the 7th Valkyrie, and find a whole lot of fun bonus content along the way. You can get started completely for free, and then if you decide you want to chip in and get bonus content, early access, and a whole lot more and help us along the path of heroes towards a whole lot of cool checkpoints, then you can do that. It's patreon.com/7th Valkyrie, that's 7THVALKYRIE, and give it a look. With that, on into the show. Hey, everybody, and welcome to TABTA, the adventure behind the adventure for the 7th Valkyrie, where we watch one little community go from total obscurity to maybe 7 seasons in a movie and maybe more, or it's possible we just discover the power of friendship along the way. I'm your host, Colin Sharp, founder, creator, current voice of the 7th Valkyrie, and this week we're talking about Over Troubled Waters Part 1, which is Season 2, Chapter 28, the first part of it. It's live for our patrons already, the full episode on Patreon. And let's start by getting inside the episode. So Meridia's hanging out, but there's no Val. She's kind of expecting him, but for now she's got to go it alone. And that really begs the question of where is the false wolf? Where is Val? Who we think is the Iron Wolf, she thinks is false. Time will tell. Last time we saw him, he wasn't really in a great headspace. He was kind of like really dour about how everything had happened with Edaran and kind of lost and confused. But Meridia's dealt with uncertainty and shit and unreliable partners before, so that's not going to stop her. And as she gets ready and then emerges into the new city, we do really see that she has started to develop a name for herself, even above the usual light core recognition. And that's kind of fun. I thought, there is a lot of deeply rooted misogyny in the Edaran military, which comes from a lot of places. And regardless of all that, it does seem like people know a hero when they see one. And you can even tell that, like, Jossun, as angry as he is when he comes and is threatening her and telling her, like, he does acknowledge that she's really good with the bow, but it's just like, well, you can't fight for real. And we get and after so much bullshit from Jossun, we get a small fuck you here when Meridia can just ignore him, and she's doing exactly what she's supposed to do. She's a symbol. Like, he can't order her to respond. He can't. So she's just like, I am in my zone, and he's like, fuck, god damn it. And she says that one line of like, then I'm glad you're not a betting man. And speaking of voices, as I jump into Meridia, I swear to let's hop outside the episode, and because I want to talk about how Jossun's voice is going to blow out my larynx one of these days. I find it really fun. I can get there easily, get into the character. Meridia. But, like, if it's a little dry outside, like it always is in Guanacaste this time of year, I can get, like, a line and a half in before I start coughing. I paused that one because I was finished, but, like, sometimes I'll need to be going through him being like, and this is why we're going to kill everybody. And seriously, like, it takes it out of me to get into that character, and you can hear me slipping into it. Anyway, as opposed to Meridia, who's one of my favorite voices to do, and certainly like my top 3 favorite female voices to get to act. And I actually want to talk about that as well, because female voices are an interesting yet tricky area for me, as you might expect. I am a cisgendered identifying as a male, and I think that in the area of female voices, it's probably one of the spaces we'll see the biggest upgrade and the biggest transformation when we eventually do a full cast version. Right now, to find those female voices and to distinguish them and make them feel female, there's a lot of tricks that I have to dig into my book to do, or into my bag of tricks to do. Giving them an accent certainly helps, and you'll notice that like Meridia, May is another big one. I love to go with the old Southern. There's a couple old Southern-ish women, but at the same time, there are distinct differences between what we associate as typically male versus female voices that I try to keep in consideration. But at the same time, they can be so culturally like tailored that it's, I don't know, it can be not applicable to another world where they have different cultural expectations. I remember I was reading about this in the early days of the voiceover, and I actually ended up on a couple of transperson support forums looking for tips on, and there were other people like me who were not voice actors, who were people whose biological voice didn't match what they wanted to be presenting to the world. And so there are all these sort of tricks on how to sound female, but also natural. And there were these little techniques and like how you could use certain word choice and how you could soften your tone and raise your pitch. And there were all these elements. And that was really interesting. And I was like, oh, but that's for finding your voice, and making it more feminine, as opposed to finding an entirely unique female person who has all their own unique traits and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't take any of these specific techniques wholesale, so it's not like I'm like, oh, whenever I want to be a female, I'm like, oh, just put your hand on your throat and talk naturally. It'll stretch the vocal cords up a notch. That was one that I saw, but I kind of have to use a blend of tweaks, the right character traits, the right conversational style, and then kind of, the word, Meridia said or May said, and over time you guys have gotten used to these characters sounding a certain way. And that's really important because I want these girls to be as distinct and varied, but also kind of, versatile and, realistic as possible without it sounding like a Monty Python skit. And speaking of Monty Python, now for something completely different, the end of the episode. And this is where the cops would show up to arrest people in the Monty Python move. They call it the cop out because they would just, when they couldn't figure out how to get out of a sketch, they just have a bunch of cops show up. Same thing they did at the end of the movie. Shit, that's them. That's the cop. This is my cop out. Have a great one, guys. Talk to you later. Cheers, and stay tuned for part 2 on Friday.